I like to double fist the festivals.
You might as well kill two birds with one stone. So yeah, I mean, do you mind if I actually talk a little bit about both since
Sure.
we're here? Cool. I guess to start off, just how you became involved with each of them and sort of what the genesis of working.
David asked if I would come. Let me just get some water. Asked if I would come to Toronto and have lunch with him and sort of discuss this project that he wanted to do. And that's how it started. We chatted then over lunch. He told me basically what it was about, what things to sort of look at and sort of research if I was interested. And we just sort of took it from there. Shame. The first I heard about that was in 2008. Steve and I were at a dinner at the House of Parliament. They were House of Parliament in London. They were celebrating Film 4's contribution to film, and he told me the idea. I didn't get the script, but he told me the concept for the film, and that's how that one started.
I mean, researching these roles, I mean, there's Brandon and there's Carl Young. I mean, one's this real historical character that require research in sort of a more formal way. But then with Brandon, I mean, he's a sex addict, and I'm sure that there's ways. I mean, just if you want to talk about how you researched both these roles and how that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of material in relation to Jung, and it's a matter of sort of finding what I could read in the right amount of time, and then really in both scenarios and in most jobs that I do, it really revolves around the script, the story that we're telling in that concise period of time. You know, so it's an hour and a half to 2 hours to tell this story, and so I spend a lot of time with the script. There is of course then a biography that's available for Jung, which is great. So you have all that information. You just follow that, what parents did, uncles, a lot of religious influence in his life. He's sort of, because again, the great thing about these sort of characters, Jung and Freud and these sort of really obsessive type characters, is that they've made a recording of everything, whether it be the sort of letters, that the correspondence between the two, or basically Jung sort of delving into his childhood and explaining when he sort of started to realize the sort of self and started to sort of, he says, the seeds of his psychoanalysis and his philosophy on it. And so that's that. And then when you have a character like Brandon, which is fictional, then according to the information that's given to you in the script, you put together a logical biography. That's something that I do with all scripts anyway. If it's a fictional character, you provide a biography. Again, what the parents would have done, what the person was like at school. Were they academic? Were they sporty? Did they have a lot of friends? Were they a loner? All these sort of questions. What sort of drinks they like to have, all those sort of things, which just sort of give you a sort of full idea of the character, where he's coming from, where he wants to go. So that's the difference there, really.
Yeah, I mean, and then what about them sort of related to you, not just as an actor, but also as a person? I mean,
well, it's hard to sort of pinpoint any one thing. By spending a lot of time with them in terms of with the script, you start to try and understand behavioral patterns. And by doing that, you sort of reflect on yourself. You look around to those in and around you, and you just try and sort of understand. I think that's kind of a major sort of part of my job, to try and understand characters. Not necessarily to have all the answers, but to try and understand their motivations. And when you get that, then you understand, then you figure out what sort of moral compass they have and where they're coming from with that, and how that differs with you. And those sort of questions you ask yourself. And I mean, what I always do as well, and this is all kind of boring because it's all my homework, but I'll write a list of characteristics down on the page, and then from those characteristics I'll tick the ones that I think I have available to myself, and then the ones that I don't, I just find them, and they're in there somewhere. We're all pretty much the same, and we're all built up of the same things. So it's just a matter of sort of investigating, being honest with yourself, and then just sort of, hopefully doing justice, never judging the sort of people that you're trying to portray, just trying to understand.
Yeah, I mean, I saw these films in the same day.
Oh, wow,
back to
okay.
back, which was really, I saw Shame at 9 a.m. I was like, I need to call my shrink and take a full shower after seeing that. But what I really, really appreciated them, among other things, was that, yes, it's about these historic characters, and yes, it's about sex addiction and whatever. But I felt like, Shame was very much also about this sort of hyper-sexualized world that we live in, I live in, that I very much felt was sort of the first really real portrayal of this world. And then also I felt like A Dangerous Method, despite the fact that it's 100 years since those characters were living, so much of that resonates today. Like monogamy was a big theme in your characters. That's still, like, for heterosexuals especially, that's taboo. That doesn't happen. Like, you can't, unless you're a Mormon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what about these films, when you read these scripts, did you feel resonated to your world and to the world that you live in? I mean, why do you think it was sort of important to tell?
Well, the thing is, what's interesting, and you sort of touched on it there, is, 100 years ago they were talking about sex and our relationship to sex. And then we have a film like Shame, which is very much dealing with today's relationship to sex. And look, not everybody's Brandon, but there's elements to Brandon in the world that he occupies that I think, unless you're blinkered or you're dishonest with yourself, you can recognize certain things and relate to certain things. And I think, the whole thing about Shame is it's not only about, we chose sort of sexual addiction. That's the sort of his primary sort of condition here. But, the fact of the matter is we're getting so much information thrown at us these days, and people are trying to sell us stuff all the time, 24/7. Sex is everywhere. It's like, there's posters, big billboards of women in their underwear. It's like whether you want to buy sort of soda or breakfast cereal, people are selling sex along with the product. And also accessibility, that's probably the main thing. And we have that with everything. That's why these conditions manifest themselves in gambling, an unhealthy relationship with food, drink, drugs, sex. And I think it's down to a society that's quite driven by anxiety. People are confused. It's an overload of information. And so people sort of have strange ways of then expressing themselves throughout those sort of mediums. And this whole idea. I think the world that we're living in now. This whole idea that access to excess. That's basically what we have. And New York being a good example of a city that's 24/7, 7 days. 24/7. You can access any amount of excess that you want. And where does it end? And what happens to us because of that? And it's not. I don't think it's a judgment or again some sort of demonization of the world we live in. It's just asking questions and provoking thought. So I can relate to that because I can see it everywhere around me. When I was growing up, if you wanted to get a porn magazine or a porn DVD, you had to reach up for the top shelf, and that probably took about an hour and a half of courage. And then you had to go to the front desk and confront the person that you were buying or renting the material off of. So there, the shame element was there. It was immediate. Nowadays, you just hit two buttons on the computer and there's thousands of options.
And it's very new. Like, it's only within the last 10 years.
Exactly. It's very new. And I think this idea of accumulation and this idea of a necessity to own things and possess things and experience things has been sold to us and promoted to us. And so I think in some respects a lot of sort of intimacy is being taken away. There's the physicality of the act is there, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of emotional content. Certainly in Brandon's situation, Brandon is somebody that doesn't feel comfortable in an intimate environment. I mean, it just like freaks him out. That's an area that he loses control in, and for whatever reasons. Specific to him, he can't handle it. Even down to his sister coming, the idea of her embracing him, just a hug, that level of intimacy, it makes him squirm. He needs to get out of that. And again with his sexual relationships, he's much more at ease and comfortable paying for a prostitute or having a casual encounter with somebody one night because they leave his life. They don't bring any of their emotional life into his life, and therefore it's all kept clean in his head. In terms of Freud and Jung, I think we take for granted a lot of the sort of teachings that these guys were the forefathers of. The idea that we can relate to our sort of our bodies are responsible for so many things in childhood. How we relate to sort of excrement, anus, relationships with parents, vagina, penis. Nobody was dealing with these sort of things in the early 1900s, and Freud was like, well, this is going to be this is going to reoccur in your adult life because of the experiences you have with this in the formative years, and so this is a language that we understand very well now because it's part and parcel of our sort of, of our everyday life, the idea of an introverted personality and extroverted personality coming from Jung. But again, it's people, I'm trying, where I think a lot of us in this world are trying to figure out what we're doing here, how we relate to each other, how we relate to ourselves, why we do certain things, and what sparks those motivations or those actions, and it's always interesting just to investigate those things. Again, I'd be lying if I said I had the answers to these things, but it's just good to be asking the questions, to be provoking these sort of thoughts, and that's what I think are interesting about these two projects, and that's what interests me in most things, to have ambiguous characters that aren't like clear cut and sort of good and bad, and now the audience is in a very safe place because they know that you're supposed to be rooting for this guy and this is the bad guy, and it's all very easy to sit there and eat your popcorn and you're not challenged for an hour and a half, whereas I think films like this more challenging to the audience. They have to participate more, and that's what excites me personally.
Yeah, I mean, and Fish Tank's very much the same. I mean, I did not like that. I still liked that character in the end, but I did. I mean, he was, and do you deliberately sort of go after, I mean, you just were talking about, but deliberately go after these roles and try to really seek out roles where that's sort of present as opposed to...
Yeah, I do, because, I think, we're all capable of doing pretty hideous things, and then we're also capable of massive humanity and positivity, and in Fish Tank, Connor's character was in a lot of ways, I mean, the catalyst for Mia to get up and out of there. And, he was the only person in her life that was giving her some sort of confidence and telling her that that she was special and that she should follow her dreams and not to feel like inadequate. And then, of course, then he breaches the line and abuses that trust. But he brings a lot of good into her life as well, and that's the thing. It's like, it's not so clear cut. There's a lot of gray areas which are interesting to investigate.
And I guess just moving on, because I'm not sure how much time I have left, but with Steve McQueen and David Cronenberg, I mean, I just spoke with David and I spoke with Steve McQueen in Toronto. I mean, they both seem like amazing guys, and clearly have a lot of faith in you as an actor. I mean, what was it like working with them? They're clearly different directors, but they also are directors that don't compromise. I mean, I bet... if you could just discuss a little bit about
that. I will, and I'll tell you, I'll give you the sort of similarities between them, because I think it's more interesting, really, because they're hugely different personalities. You know that, you've met the two of them.
From 2 seconds, I could tell.
Yeah, exactly. But what's great is that they love, they love working with actors, I think, and they have a real interest in human condition. And, it's like David said today, this is the official sort of line of the world that we live in society, but what happens underneath that official line, all the things that people are trying to deal with, because you're sort of sold this sort of idea of this is how you're supposed to live your life and this is the way you're supposed to go about it, but obviously that doesn't compute and it doesn't sort of work out in practice, maybe in theory. And so, they're always investigating and asking questions. They're also very relevant, very intelligent people, and very aware of the world around them, and very highly read, and very sensitive characters, and also very confident in themselves. Which is a great attribute to have as a leader. People will follow you if you're not afraid to look stupid or vulnerable or feminine or nerdish, that this is life and this is happening, and it shouldn't be sort of shied away from. I hope I'm making sense. And so everybody follows them then, because it shows an incredible amount of courage and strength, and they have a great sense of humor. We have a lot of fun on set, and I think they trust me because they know that I go away and I do my homework and I come to the table with something. It might be the right thing, but I'm trying things out, as opposed to like, okay, where do you want me? What do you want me to do? And it's a very collaborative experience then, because I think, I might be speaking out of place. I think both those guys have an idea about what they want, a rough sort of plan. But when you come on the day, anything can happen and anything can change, and you can go in a completely different direction, or not. And it's that's for me what makes this business exciting, is that you have that freedom, and they both create a very safe environment to create and take risks.